Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Run in the Paint recap. Today is Saturday, November 16th. I'm Miles here from the Run in the Paint podcast, going solo to recap the second night of NBA Cup action. And man, oh man, there was a ton of stuff to go over from last night. Some ridiculous finishes, some great individual performances, amazing team performances. Let's just get into it, man. This was an incredible night of action. Actually, before we get into it, leave a like on the video if you enjoy. Subscribe for more NBA content. In the description down below, I'll have timestamps if you guys want to check down there and move ahead to where I talk about your favorite team, maybe a game that you want to hear me talk about here, because there's just so much going on. I don't know how long this video is going to take. I know last recap was longer than normal, but always want to remind you that there's always those timestamps down below that you can fast forward to the game that you want to hear a quick recap on. The first game that we're going to go over here today, man, gotta go to the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Sacramento Kings. This was an absolute beauty of a matchup. And this was one that I definitely circled coming in because I was very curious at how this matchup was going to turn out. On one hand, you have a Sacramento Kings team who's been playing some really good basketball so far this season. Despite their record only being like a few games over 500, they've been in a lot of close games. So a lot of their losses have just been in the clutch, just hasn't gone their way. And then you have a Minnesota Timberwolves team, obviously make the conference finals last year, but very inconsistent. None more obvious than the last couple games, the Timberwolves lose back-to-back to the Portland Trail Blazers. I like the Blazers. I think they're going to be a pretty good team in the future. I like their roster, but no excuses for losing back-to-back games to the Portland Trail Blazers if you're a team that is trying to contend like the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I was very curious to see how these two teams would play coming in. Kings with no DeMar DeRozan in this one. He did not play. Lower back tightness kept DeMar out of this one. So the first game that he's missed this season was nothing crazy for the Kings. They're used to playing without him and being successful with how they've played over the last couple of seasons. And man, oh man, this game was a bit of a ride. Without DeMar DeRozan, it actually was kind of a struggle for the Kings so far, especially against this Timberwolves defense. The Wolves really controlled this game for the first three quarters, I would say, of this game. They led by 20 at one point in the third quarter, double-digit lead for most of the first half in Sacramento. And it was the three-point shooting that really was the difference in the first half for the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were knocking down their threes at a high clip. In the first half, they shot 10 for 21 from three, and the Kings took four less and made four less. They shot 6 of 17 from three, which completely negated the Kings and Wolves basically shooting the same percentage from the field, 52% from the field in the first half. And then the third quarter, it just kind of continued. The Kings really couldn't get it going in the third quarter. Their shots, then nothing was going in. The Wolves defense was really starting to stifle them. They weren't able to get shots going from the inside. They were 2 for 10 from three in the quarter. Their really only source of offense in the third quarter was De'Aaron Fox, who, my oh my, was ridiculous in this game. He had 7 free throw makes in the third quarter, 13 points in the third quarter, 13 of the 28 points. But getting outscored by 8 there. And the Kings were in a 16-point hole going into the fourth quarter. The score was 98-82. Again, Minnesota having complete control of this game the whole way through. To start the fourth quarter, though, De'Aaron Fox was like, all right, you know what? I've had enough of this. I'm ready to take over this game. And that he did, man. The Kings scored the first 14 points of the fourth quarter in a span of 3 minutes to cut the 16-point lead down to 2. It was unbelievable. De'Aaron Fox scored a quick 9 points in those 3 minutes, and it was a bit of everything. I mean, not even just those 3 minutes. He had 20 in the fourth quarter. He started off the fourth quarter by attacking the basket, getting some floaters, some layups. And, once you're a guy like De'Aaron Fox, you see a couple layups go through, that jump shot starts to fall as well. You get a nice feel for things, get a nice rhythm. And that's exactly what happened, man. De'Aaron Fox just completely took over the game in the fourth quarter to get Sacramento back in it. And unbelievably, they took the lead 5 minutes into the quarter. Yeah, man. They went on a 19-2 run in the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter to take the lead. And after that, it was just back and forth, shot for shot, throwing punches back and forth. It was crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. So we're tied with 16 seconds to go in the fourth quarter. Minnesota has possession. We're tied at 1:15. Anthony Edwards has the ball, drives to the paint, and instead of shooting the ball, instead of going for the win, he kicks it out to Jaden McDaniels, his boy in the corner, for a three-pointer, which misses at the buzzer. Very curious to hear what you guys think about Edwards passing up the going for the win in regulation and going to his guy Jaden McDaniels in the corner. Excuse me. So then we go to overtime. And it's still back and forth battle between these two teams. De'Aaron Fox hits a step back three to give him 57 points. Jaden McDaniels does hit a three-pointer in overtime thanks to Anthony Edwards' penetration. Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray came over and doubled, which left McDaniels open. He buried a three-pointer. Then the next possession, the Wolves have the ball. Anthony Edwards does the same thing, this time on the left side, and takes a step-back three, and he buries it. And immediately, Mike Brown decides to call a timeout. And you know what I say about calling a timeout in overtime. Whichever team is able to force the first timeout call in overtime is usually going to win the game. And spoiler alert, that is what happened. The Timberwolves ended up winning this game thanks to some plays from Julius Randle, actually. Down the stretch, he made a nice layup, hit a three-pointer at the right wing area off of a broken play, wide open. It was a beautiful shot. And then to seal the deal. Well, okay. Before we even get to the Anthony Edwards shot that sealed the deal. So Julius Randle drives to the rim, makes the bank shot, the little layup, tough shot off the glass, falls down, loses his shoe. So the Kings have a 5-on-4 advantage going back the other way. And honestly, I think this kind of threw them off. It kind of threw them off a little bit because, normally in this situation, you're able to catch teams off guard because of, defensively, you have one guy all the way back that lost his shoe, tried to get it on. Randall, couldn't get his shoe on for like that whole possession. And basically the Timberwolves' philosophy defensively, as it usually is whatever you do, just funnel the guy with the ball, funnel De'Aaron Fox or whoever's handling the ball to the paint, to Rudy Gobert to try to defend the shot. And that's exactly what the Minnesota Timberwolves did. Instead of the Kings being able to set up in their offense and just give Fox the ball and do pick and roll and all that, Keon Ellis drives, misses a layup over Gobert. Gobert blocks the shot. The Kings get the rebound, and De'Aaron Fox has to take a tough floating shot over Rudy Gobert, who did a great job contesting the shot. So honestly, Randall being back there and the Timberwolves being on a quote-unquote disadvantage actually helped them a bit, because they just stuck to their philosophies to just funnel De'Aaron Fox and any driver to Rudy Gobert to defend a shot. So anyways, Kings miss, wild possession. Definitely sure they would like to have that one back, especially De'Aaron Fox. Anyways, Timberwolves have the ball. Anthony Edwards has it, and he makes a ridiculous step-back shot from the corner, identical to the step-back he made just a few minutes ago in the overtime that forced the timeout. So Anthony Edwards finished with 36 points, and despite De'Aaron Fox going for 60, the Timberwolves won this game in overtime, 130-126. There you see all the numbers, and yes, those are all real. De'Aaron Fox became the first player this season to score 60 points in a game, and not just first player this season. This is the first 60-point game in Kings franchise history. And this is not just Sacramento Kings. This is not just a record for the Sacramento Kings. This is like Kansas City Kings, going back to the Cincinnati Royals, Rochester Royals. This is one of the oldest teams in the league. In the 77-year history of the Sacramento Kings, or the Kings or the Royals, this is the first 60-point game ever. So that is extremely impressive. Congratulations to De'Aaron Fox on that incredible accomplishment, getting a 60-point game, especially because the Kings needed it as well. I mean, They were down. They were dead in the water, man. The Wolves had dominated this game through 3 quarters. Fox just led them back in the game. Unfortunately, couldn't pull it out. But this was just a fantastic game, a great showcase of both sides of the ball, especially once the Kings got back into the game. The final 7 minutes of regulation and in overtime, this was just incredible basketball to watch, man. I'm not going to lie. The atmosphere in Sacramento is always awesome, especially now that the Kings have been competitive. And going up against Anthony Edwards, I mean, this is a battle between two of the best, I guess – well, I wouldn't say young-ish guards anymore. Anthony Edwards is still young, but these are two guys that, in a few years, Fox is kind of in his prime, I'd say right now, but, two guys that just have the capability of putting on these performances a lot, man. I would not mind seeing this type of matchup in a future series or play-in matchup or something. I would love to see these two teams battle it out because we got a really close finish between these two teams. The first game of the season for the Sacramento Kings on the first Thursday of the season, it came down to the final possession as well. So these two teams just match up really well with each other here. But I do have to say, man, another tough loss in the clutch for the Sacramento Kings. I'll try to get the numbers up here in front of me. But the clutch number, this is just another clutch loss for the Sacramento Kings. Looking at trying to find their clutch record. Yeah, they are now 3-5 in clutch games. 8 of their games have been in clutch time, and just 3-5 in them, and just unable to get the rhythm to go. Like they have a positive plus minus in the clutch. They're shooting 51% from the field. At the end of the games, it's just not going their way. It's crazy. It really is crazy the season that the Kings have had so far, but I mean, I wouldn't be discouraged with a 7-6 start. I mean, they've played some great basketball. They've just been on the wrong end of some crazy clutch plays, which I guess is only right considering they've got Fox and DeRozan who have been so clutch over the last few years. Only right that it kind of goes back the other way, right? But either way, great game between these two teams. Good bounce back win for the Minnesota Timberwolves, like I mentioned before, after them losing to the Blazers. Super important for them to come out and get this victory. It's going to be even more important for them to try to sustain this for a little while here. Their next game they play on Sunday afternoon against the Phoenix Suns in a bit of a playoff rematch, but we'll get to the Suns later. They're injured right now. Then at Toronto, at Boston, then a 4-game homestand: Rockets, Kings, Clippers, Lakers. And then, so that's going to be a chance for the Wolves to try to get on their foot here because right now, like I said, they've just been pretty inconsistent. They had lost their last 3 games, 2 of them to the Blazers, and also don't forget that game against Miami where Eric Spoelstra drew up a beautiful ATO or a sideline out of bounds to get the Heat of 1-point victory there. They kind of lost. Had some miscommunications on the final play. So it was looking rough there for the Timberwolves. So good for them to get this victory in Sacramento. Next game, let's go to the Battle of New York. Go to another close game between the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks. This is a game where the Knicks had control for most of it. The Knicks really, they had done a good job of staying in control of this game for a while. They had a 21-point lead in the third quarter. But this Brooklyn Nets team, man, slowly, just like they always do, they find a way to just slowly creep back into games and just stay in there because of their defensive pressure and just it's just their pressure and how they can pressure their opponents. And not to mention offensively, Cam Thomas. Oh my goodness, he had 43 points in this game. He only missed 6 shots. And listen, when Cam Thomas is shooting 16 for 22 from the field, that may be the most impressive 16 for 22 from the field. One of the more impressive, shooting splits in the league because the shots he takes are so difficult because he has to. He's like their only half-court creator, and he was just knocking them in. In the first quarter, I want to say he went 7 for 7 from the field, something like that, had 19 points on just absurd, ridiculous shots. 19 points in the first quarter. It really was just incredible. The shot making of Cam Thomas. But despite that, Knicks had a great advantage, a 21-point lead. They didn't have Karl Anthony Towns in this game. Missed this game due to he had that injury at the end of the Bulls game. Left knee contusion kept him out of this one. And Jalen Brunson led the way with 37 points. OG Anunoby, he did foul out in this one eventually, but had 25 points and 8 rebounds. But anyways, the Nets were just slowly again creeping into this game. And so much so that they had the lead. They came back and took the lead. Dennis Schroeder hit a corner three with about 14 seconds remaining or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. The Knicks just had a golden opportunity. They came back against Chicago on Wednesday, and they fouled Josh Hart, fouled Kobe White at the end. Brunson in and out on the jump shot at the end there. Yeah, man, the Knicks had a 9-point lead with 4 minutes to go. Did they have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter? Not only did they have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, they had a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter. And the Nets just stormed back. Dennis Schroeder hits the three, 12 seconds to go. Knicks call timeout. And what do? They get the ball to their best player. They get it to Jalen Brunson, left corner, guarded by Dorian Finney-Smith. The Nets didn't send any help. Brunson just jabbed at Dorian Finney-Smith. He kind of just stood there and just fired a three right over him. And it was cash, absolute cash with 6 seconds to go. Gave the Knicks a 2-point lead. The Nets didn't have any timeouts. Dennis Schroeder came down the other end. Threw up a little scoop layup, one of his patented scoop layups, but it was blocked by Brooklyn Bridges, Mikal Bridges, with his first major highlight there as a New York Knick. First like monumental thing that we'll remember. It's been kind of a tough year so far for Mikal Bridges, trying to get acclimated so far with the New York Knicks, especially defensively. That whole team, offensively, he's been shooting the ball pretty well after that horrible preseason where his jump shot just looked. It was Mikal Kidd-Gilchrist in the preseason. But, yeah, man, Jalen Brunson just bailed out the Knicks in this game. It was crazy. They were in real danger of falling to the Nets, which would have been ridiculous if they lost this game. But able to hold on and get the victory right there. Next game we'll go to we'll start from the beginning now that we've talked about the two biggest games of the day. We'll start now with the Detroit Pistons defeating the Toronto Raptors. This one also went to overtime, 99-95. Or no, this did not go into overtime. Okay, I thought this did go into overtime, but it did not. The Pistons have been playing in so many close games that have gone into overtime that I'm kind of losing my mind with all the close games that they've been playing. But Pistons in Toronto, it was a tough defensive-minded battle between these two teams. The Pistons shot 41% from the field, won the game shooting 21% from three and 65 at the free throw line. Luckily for them, though, they held the Raptors to 36 from the field and 26, 8 for 31 from three. So, it was a defensive-minded battle. In the end, they were able to make enough shots. Malik Beasley hit 4 of the 8 Piston threes, 4 of 9 from three, had 20 points. And, that was enough for them to hold on with the victory. Their defense down the stretch was able to win them this game. Despite Jakob Poeltl being a beast down low, having 10 offensive rebounds, had 25 points and 18 boards in this game. Jakob Poeltl. RJ Barrett had 22, 6, and 7, but he didn't shoot well. Grady Dick, who we've been praising all season long, had a stinker in this one. 4 for 17 from the field, 1 for 10 from three, and a good look to try and give the Raptors the lead in the final minutes there. But the Pistons were able to get some stops there and come away with the victory, which is good for them, man. Pistons continue to be in the mix. I'm excited to see what they do going forward this season. This is now their 6th win. They're 6-8 on the season, and in so many close games as well. Like you talk about clutch games, they've probably played in the most so far. I feel like every single game they've played in, besides even their first few games were kind of clutch scenarios. So shout out to the Pistons for getting a good close victory. Raptors lose another game. They now officially have the worst record in the NBA at 2-11 on the season, which is something that they probably don't mind too much here. Moving on here, let's talk about the 76ers and the Magic. So this is the second game with Joel Embiid and Paul George together. Second game for Joel Embiid this season. And I'll tell you what, man, the Sixers, Joel Embiid, has had a couple rough opponents to go against in these first two games. First going up against Karl-Anthony Towns and the Knicks, and then going up against this defensive beast that is the Orlando Magic. Embiid had 20 points in this game. 10 of them were free throws. 10 of them were from free throws. Paul George shot 27% from the field. Look, this Magic team, they're doing it without Paolo Banchero, man. Franz Wagner, what he's been able to do, stepping up in the absence of their superstar, Paolo Banchero, has been nothing short of amazing. He had 31, 11, and 6 in this game. Hit 5 for 11 from 3. I mean, what this guy has been able to do has just been incredible. What this is telling me is that I had a lot of questions coming into the season about, man, will we see? We already know how special Paolo Banchero is. We know how special he is. Can Franz Wagner or Jalen Suggs, who is going to be the bona fide number 2 guy on this team? Because I think that matters, right? I think it matters that you have that bona fide number 2 guy, that you know what you're going to get from, on a given night. You know that you're going to get 20 points per game or whatever in that game. Since Paolo Banchero has been injured, let's go to this recent home stretch, not including this most recent game. The 4 games before this, Franz Wagner has averaged 28 points, 5 boards, and 6 assists. He's just increased his aggressiveness to become their lead scorer during this stretch, and it has made all the difference. Because right now, the Magic, what we were seeing in the first few games when they were on the road against those great teams, was that they can defend they're a defensive-minded team. Yes, they struggled in the first quarter of some games against like the Cavs and the Thunder, I remember, but besides those first quarters, they defended those teams pretty well. If we can just get some sort of offense, then that's all we need. And Franz Wagner has given them that on that end of the floor. Jalen Suggs hit some threes in this one as well. But the defense again, man. I mean, this is a game that the Sixers had an 8-point lead late in the third quarter, I want to say. They were playing very, solid basketball in this defensive-minded game. But let me find here. What was the score going into the fourth quarter? Because it was low scoring. Even here, right here, with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, the Sixers led this game 72-64. Then the Magic go on a 7-0 run to end the quarter, most of them off of free throws. Then they take that into the fourth quarter, so they lead 73-72 starting off the fourth quarter. And just like they did in the Pacer game on, was that Wednesday? It was Wednesday, I believe. Just like they did it in that game where they only where the Pacers had like one made field goal in the first 7 minutes of the quarter. The Sixers did not make a basket in the fourth quarter until the 6:42 mark of the period. This team just completely, they are a nightmare to go against defensively because of their size. They just don't know what to do. Opposing teams just do not know what to do with this defense because of the size. And when Jonathan Isaac plays like this, they are so hard to beat. They're so hard to just score on, let alone beat. It is just ridiculous what this Magic team can do. And Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs hitting shots like that. I mean, the Sixers go from leading 72-64, whatever, in the third quarter. The Magic then outscore the Sixers 31-10 to get a 13-point lead with 2 minutes to go. And it was Jonathan Isaac rebounds, getting to the free throw line, put back dunks, the defense forcing turnovers. There were some possessions where Joel Embiid, obviously, this is his second game back, obviously fatigued a little bit. Jonathan Isaac made it difficult for Joel Embiid to get positioning in the post. I remember there was one play, I don't remember the exact mark of it, but Joel Embiid, he started like on the right block. The Sixers set some screens for him to go to the left side of the block to get the ball in the post. And Jonathan Isaac was being so physical with him, legal defense, and, just guarding him so well that by the time Joel Embiid got positioning in the post, it was like 6 seconds, caught the ball, had to spin, take a fadeaway, and it was short. He had to work so hard to get positioning in the post that it was over. It was over before he even caught the ball. You knew he was going to miss the shot short because Jonathan Isaac just made him work so hard. So shout out to the Orlando Magic, man, for just continuing the wins, man, without Paolo Banchero. Again, the home court advantage has meant a lot there in Orlando. For them to get these wins without Paolo Banchero, it's definitely been impressive. Next game in the Eastern Conference, let's talk about the other Florida team getting a huge win, the Miami Heat, without Jimmy Butler in this game. Get a victory in Indiana against the Pacers, 124-111. And this was very impressive. This was a very impressive victory in Indianapolis. Bam Adebayo finally has another big game. I've been asking for this. He's been so far this season. I can comfortably say that he's been my most disappointing player so far this season. I had so many high expectations for him. I had him as my defensive player of the year. And it was because of he could do things like this. He could defend really well, force turnovers, block some shots. He didn't have any blocks in this game, but we know what Bam can do defensively, guarding 1 through 5. And then what he can do offensively, there's just so much potential for him. And he was just fantastic in this game. 30 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, 10 of 17 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, 8 of 9 at the free throw line. And not only that for the Miami Heat, something that I think is super important is that some of their role players had great games. Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero, they didn't shoot it the best in this game, but where the Heat are at their best, and we've seen over the last few years, when they are at their best, whether it's in the playoffs or the regular season, it is when they can get found money from their role players, and that's what they got tonight. Nikola Jovic off the bench finally. He came off the bench in this game. He was a starter, but Eric Spoelstra switching it up. Had 11 points and 6 rebounds off the bench. He was good. And in the starting lineup, Haywood Highsmith, normally known for his defense, had 14 points, was 6 for 6 from the field. Some of those buckets were off of the defense. And even the old man, Kevin Love, had stuffed the stat sheet in 12 minutes of play, getting the start. 15 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 steals in 12 minutes. 6 of 8 from the field, 3 for 4 from downtown. And something that I think, something that you guys might be noticing, a bit of a trend in all these stats, is the steals and the turnovers on Indiana. And that's something. So here's the thing. Quick side note about these recaps and, everything with the podcast and recaps. There are so many games going on. I'm not always able to catch every single game and all the little nitty bits and pieces of every single game. So sometimes you do have to do a little bit of box score watching, some reading of some reports and recaps of the game. This was one of those games that I just didn't exactly have my focus on. I had my focus on some other games around the league. So when looking at this game, when looking at the side-by-side numbers, everything looks kind of similar, man. They had the rebounding was kind of even. The assists were pretty good. They shot pretty similar from the field, 3 free throw line. The glaring number was the turnovers. 20 turnovers for the Pacers compared to 10 by Miami. And that was the difference of the game. That was the difference of the game, was the turnovers. Because normally the Pacers are the team that are getting out running and, getting points in transition. But in this game, it was the Heat that got out in transition, had 19 fast break points compared to just 11 for Indiana. And most of those were just off of fast break turnovers. And some of it was, good defense from Miami. Some of it was just carelessness by Indiana. And it's just another perplexing game from the Pacers. They've just been very inconsistent so far this season, and giving up 30 to Bam, who obviously is great. I mean, I already said I had high expectations for him coming in, but a guy who had been struggling, for him to have, I believe he had 17 points in the fourth quarter. That's just not going to cut it. That's just not going to cut it for this Pacers team, man. That's really where they got, killed. It was was Bam the whole game in the fourth quarter, but in the middle 2 quarters, they got outscored by 16 points. So, it was a struggle. It was a struggle for the Indiana Pacers to really get things going. They fall in this game 124-111. Once the Heat started to get those points off turnovers in the second quarter, third quarter, started to get that lead, it was just tough for the Pacers to kind of storm back in here. So shout out to Miami for a good bounce back victory in this tournament. For the Indiana Pacers, Just another weird performance, man, in this game. I was just saying about the Pacers in their last game, how their only reliable offensive players were consistent offensive players were Mathurin and Siakam, and they both just had stinkers in this game. I'll be honest. Mathurin 4 for 11, 8 points. Siakam 14 on 14 shots, 6 of 14. The starting lineup, the plus minus of this starting lineup, Mathurin and Siakam were each a minus 25. Same with Halliburton. Turner was minus 29. Ben Shepherd was minus 22. Everyone who came off the bench had a positive plus minus. The bench was why they were able to kind of get back into the game. Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, even Jarris Walker hitting 3 threes. I'll keep saying it, perplexing game by the Pacers. It's really hard to figure them out. It's got to be. They're one of the more frustrating teams in the league just because you just don't know what you're going to get from them on a given night. But either way, Miami, good bounce back victory for them. Let's see. Next game, let's go to the Chicago Bulls and the Cleveland Cavaliers. This was a track meet. I'll tell you what, in the first quarter, the Cavs got out on fire. They scored a franchise record 49 points in the first quarter, absolutely lighting it up everywhere, inside and outside. They didn't miss a 2-point shot, excuse me, in the first quarter. They were knocking down threes, but the Bulls were also knocking down threes, man. The Bulls did a great job of just hanging around in this game. And yes, the Cavs, should mention, they did not have Evan Mobley in this game. He picked up an illness, so he did not play in this one. So had a feeling that with the Bulls coming in and their high pace that they were going to get up a lot of points just because of how impactful Evan Mobley is as a defender. He covers up so much on that end of the floor, even though you still have guys like Jared Allen, Isaac Okoro. It's a difference when you have, Evan Mobley back there defensively. But anyways, the Bulls did a great job of making the Cavs earn this one. This was close. After the first quarter, it looked like it was going to be a repeat of the Cavs game just a week ago against Golden State, where they were scoring a whole bunch of points. The Bulls made them earn it, man. It was back and forth around the fourth quarter. Cavs were just better down the stretch. Once we got into this close game, it's kind of been like how it's been the last couple of weeks. When the Cavs get into close games, they have the players like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, those two specifically. They just turn it up, and they turn it up right when they absolutely have to the most. Again, this game was tied, I want to say, with like 5 minutes to go or something like that. It was very, very close in the fourth quarter. It was tied early in the fourth quarter. The Cavs started to go on a bit of a run, but we had clutch minutes. Like this was a 5-point game with 3 minutes to go. This was a 5-point game with 3 minutes to go in this game. And the Bulls were getting some pretty good momentum. After the Bulls had cut this to 4, Donovan Mitchell drove. He had his shot blocked by Ayo Dosunmu. The Cavaliers had a few seconds remaining on the shot clock. They got it to Darius Garland, and a questionable foul, I think, was called on the Bulls, sent Darius Garland to the line. But after that, the Bulls were just kind of thrown off after that. The Cavaliers, this doesn't even sound right. In the final 2 minutes and 40 seconds, the Cavaliers scored 21 points. In less than 3 minutes, the Cavs scored 21 points. They scored 7 points a minute. It's ridiculous what this team's been able to do on the offensive end. And they were forcing turnovers. They were knocking down threes. And it was great at the end, too, because this is like the first game I could really think of so far in the NBA Cup where, since we're in the NBA Cup, point differential matters a whole lot because of tiebreakers. After you go from the record to head-to-head tiebreakers or whatever, it goes to the point differential. So for obvious reasons, if you can run up the score, that's what you're going to do. And that's what the Cavs did, man, in the final minute. Whether Karis LeVert hitting a step-back three, Donovan Mitchell hit a step-back three, Jared Allen got a dunk. Cavs just they ran up the score, rightfully so, and they ended up with 144 points. They get an 18-point victory over the Bulls. They stay undefeated, 14-0 on the season. This is never going to get old. Me being a Cavs fan, I hope that this continues for as long as possible. It does not even feel real right now that they're 14-0. But just the fact that how they're winning these games, are they Are they playing the perfect games? No, not by any means right now. But they're winning these games by their players just know exactly when to step up when they need to. And I think that's what's the most impressive about what they've been able to do over the last few weeks, because there have been some games like the Sixers game earlier, the Bulls game even on Monday, even Brooklyn last weekend. Like, there have been some games, the Milwaukee Bucks games, where the Cavs have come out flat in some quarters. They don't look the best defensively. Their shots aren't falling. They just don't look as sharp, don't look as energized. But in the fourth quarter, Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland, both of those guys have been insane in the clutch. Like, their numbers in the clutch have been absurd. They've been amazing when we get into crunch time. And they just know right when to turn it on, and it usually ends up in a Cavalier win. It always has been in a Cavalier win, at least so far this season. They haven't lost a game. So Cleveland 14-0 on the season. Chicago, another great effort in this one. Knocking down the threes, man. I mean, they just did a great job of making the Cavs earn this one. So I got to give the Bulls a lot of credit for making it difficult, making the Cavs earn it. At the end of the day, the Cavs were just better in this game. I mean, sometimes that's all it comes down to. Like, the Bulls, I mean, obviously their defense is not the best. Josh Giddey had to get pulled at certain points of this game. Yeah, he was a minus 27. I know he didn't play that well defensively, but my goodness. Minus 27 in 15 minutes. Had to get pulled a few times. But at the end of the day, the Cavs players just stepped up. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, 37 points, 7 threes. Darius Garland, 29 points and 9 assists. 9 of 18 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3. Jarrett Allen at 24 and 10. Karis LeVert had 22 points and 8 assists off the bench. Even George Niang getting the start at 14 points and 8 rebounds, hit 4 threes. Like, this team just did everything that they needed to do to get the victory. So shout out to the Cavaliers for win number 14 in a row to start the season. They'll look for win number 15 this coming Sunday against the Charlotte Hornets, looking to become that would tie the second best start in NBA history. So Cavs looking to keep the winning going, get the victory over the Bulls. Final game in the Eastern Conference, the Atlanta Hawks take down the Washington Wizards 129-117. Another absurd stat line for Dyson Daniels. He continues to put up the incredible numbers. I believe now the number is he has 29 steals over his last 5 games. And if I'm not mistaken, no other player in the whole league has that many steals total this season. I think that's the stat I saw. I want to go check that out to make sure that that's legit, because if that is legit, I just can't even believe that. Let's see here. Steals. That is correct. Yep, Dyson Daniels. 29 steals over the last 5 games. The next highest is J-Dub from OKC with 27 the whole season. That's ridiculous. Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson, what they've been able to do, it should be giving Hawks fans a lot of hope for the future there, regardless of what happens with Trae Young. You can go forward in your rebuild knowing that you have Jalen Johnson, who's a double-double machine who can play make, and still working on that jump shot. It's been falling so far this season a little bit. You got him at 22 years old. You got Dyson Daniels at 21 years old, who the only thing missing in his game is a jump shot or a consistent three-point shot. You know, the sky's the limit for those two guys, really. So shout out to the Hawks for getting this victory, another win without Trae Young, and defeating the Wizards, who it's crazy that their only 2 wins this season for Washington came against this Atlanta Hawk team. So the Hawks get their revenge, a 12-point victory over the Wizards. Now going to the Western Conference, back to the Western Conference. The New Orleans Pelicans get a nice victory over the Denver Nuggets, 101-94. Obviously, the injury-riddled Pelicans, we know their story about all their injuries. For the Nuggets, no Nikola Jokic in this one. He missed this game due to personal reasons. And that's something that is still kind of alarming with me for this team. Not Nikola Jokic missing the game for personal reasons, of course. The guy's amazing. He's durable as heck. He's been amazing. He's been the best player in the league by far this season. I've talked about him a whole bunch. But the fact that you lose, he goes out of the lineup and you lose to this team who has been in the downhill. There's been no bright spots for the Pelicans this season until this victory. if you want to say, because of all the injuries that they've had to deal with. Trey Murphy came back in this game at 17 points, 8 rebounds. Brandon Ingram was great. But besides that, you look at the guys on this roster, like Brandon Boston was not on the team. He was on like a two-way at the beginning of the season. Yves Missi, a rookie. Javonte Green, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Jamal Cain, Jalen Noel, Trey Jemison. Those are the rotation players. And the Nuggets, they're just missing Nikola Jokic. Aaron Gordon misses this game as well. And you still lose this game. And what was interesting about this game, okay, so Michael Porter played great, was very efficient, 24 points, 10 of 18 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3. You know, something that has been extremely disappointing to me this season, and I think the reason why the Nuggets bench had been so bad, well, obviously Nikola Jokic coming out of, the game and all that, but his backup, Dario Saric, was supposed to come in and actually provide something for them off the bench. And so far this season, he had provided nothing, absolutely nothing. He'd been awful on both ends of the floor. He'd been garbage. This game, he comes into the starting lineup and plays well. 9 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, was a plus 12, had the highest plus minus on the Nuggets team. It's the minutes that Saric was out of the game where the Nuggets were outscored by, they lost the game by 7. So in the 14 minutes that Dario Saric didn't play, the Nuggets got outscored by 19 points. That just can't happen, man. It's just something about this Nuggets bench. That's unbelievable. Dario Saric played a good game. I feel, if you can get a good game for Dario Saric, you should be able to win the game, but not the case at all. Not the case at all, man. Shout out to Peyton Watson and Christian Brown for continuing to ball out when they have, having this opportunity to play more minutes. But man, Denver, they're a scary team, man. And not obviously Nikola Jokic, they're scary for, obvious reasons for Nikola Jokic, but besides him, they're scary for all the wrong reasons. They're now 7-5. And I checked my statement back about the Kings. This team has played, or the Pistons. This team has played the most clutch games, and that's the only reason they have a 7-5 record, because they've been able to win close games. This game they were not, because Brandon Ingram was ridiculous. He made a bunch of contested shots to finish the game. So yeah, shout out to New Orleans for getting a win. Shout out to their fans for getting a win. This is the type of win that definitely could matter later on. Obviously, the Pelicans down in the basement of the Western Conference because of the injuries. But once those guys do get back, this team should be able to go on a little bit run to try to make the play-in. And wins like this while their guys are down and injured are going to matter a lot. So shout out for the Pelicans getting this victory. Next game, let's go to the Houston Rockets blowing out the Clippers. Another great team win for the Rockets. 125-104 victory for Houston. Alperen Şengün gets the triple-double. Didn't shoot the ball did not shoot the ball the best, but got a triple-double. Fred VanVleet was 3 rebounds from a triple-double. The bench mob of Amen Thompson, Tari Eason were great. Dylan Brooks was solid. But to me, look, Jackson Goglin, I know, is somewhere jumping for joy right now. Jumping for joy because Jabari Smith had 28 points and 11 rebounds, and he had 17 shot attempts and 8 3-point attempts, knocking down 5 of them. Jabari Smith, I could probably assume for Jackson, has been his biggest disappointment on the Rockets this season. But this game, they were actually running some actions for him. Whether it was pick and rolls, he was driving, hitting some pull-up shots, getting some threes off the catch, driving to the rim, getting some layups, getting some dunks. Jabari Smith, if he can play like this in this Rockets system, it's going to be huge. I mean, this Rockets team just has so many good pieces. Like, I mentioned them in their last one against the Clippers. Like, this team is good. This team is good, deep, so versatile, and they could just beat you in so many ways. Like, their 2 best players, Şengün goes 3 for 9. Jalen Green has 8 points, 4 of 11 from the field. So your 2 best players combined for 7 for 20 shooting. That's 35%. and you still win by 21 points against a decent Clipper team. That speaks volumes, man. The Rockets just keep on winning, man. 9-4 now on the season. I've just been so impressed with what they've been able to do. If there's a team that you should be watching out there that you probably haven't been watching, it is the Houston Rockets. And I'm not just saying that because my boy Goglin isn't here or just shout him out or anything. This Rockets team is good, and I'm just excited to see what they're able to do going forward. Now, of course, they've had a very, very home-heavy schedule to start the season, and they go on the road for a couple games. They play Chicago and Milwaukee on the road. Then 3-game homestand for Indiana, Portland, and Portland, which could all be wins. So this team could easily be, 7, 8, 9 games over 500 with this stretch. So the Houston Rockets, they're getting these wins. They haven't played the greatest of teams yet so far, but part of the, ways that you become a good team is that you beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. 8-2 in their last 10 games, and they're doing it on the defensive end. They've only had 2 games this year where they've given up over 110 points. And that's able to save them in games where our offense really isn't that going, because they're not the craziest offensive team. Tonight they went crazy, but normally they're not the craziest offensive team. They have the ratings, but point-wise, they don't get up a ton of points. It's their defense that really wins them their games, and it's that bench mob that does it for them. So shout out to the Rockets for that big victory. The Lakers and Spurs game, LeBron versus Wemby. This was a very funny, or I should say, Anthony Davis versus Wemby. Anthony Davis had 40 and 12 in this game, doing it all over the place, continues to his sensational starts of the season. Him plus LeBron going for his 4th straight triple-double for the first time in his career. Unbelievable. We're able to get the Lakers a 120-115 victory, get them the road win. Able to hold off Wemby and the Spurs there, thanks to their defense, man. Spurs had a chance in the final minute there to tie things up. They were down 3 after LeBron made a tough layup. Stephon Castle had a good look, had made his first 3 threes. Couldn't get that one to go. Spurs fall to the Lakers. But this was a fun game, not national TV game. Definitely fun to see these two teams go at it. And Anthony Davis just keep playing like this. Like, his jump shot just looks so good this season. It's going in. Had to throw up a couple of grenades that were resulted in shot clock violations. So even that kind of hurt his percentages a little bit. But Anthony Davis this season has just been balling, and you love to see it. I mean, right now you could argue this has been some of the best basketball of his career. You really could. So Lakers get a nice victory over the Spurs, now 8-4 on the season, and that road win. Good to get a road victory, because that's one of my worries about the Lakers this season. And obviously one win doesn't really change that, but very worried that this team could be a, home, very good at home, poor on the road. So getting a road victory, definitely important for them at this point of the season. A couple more games here. The OKC Thunder blow out the Phoenix Suns 99-83. Low-scoring game. But that's exactly how the Thunder like it, man. That's exactly how the Thunder like it. Now, of course, Phoenix, without Kevin Durant, Devin Booker missed this game. So only really having Devin Booker as your main offensive threat in the starting lineup against the most historic defense in NBA history, it results in the Suns shooting 29% from the field. Yes, they shot 29% from the field. 9 for 37 from 3, 24%. 30 of their 83 points were free throws. They shot 30 for 40 from the line. That's the only thing the Thunder didn't do well in this game, was the amount of fouls, dude. They committed 26 fouls in this game, and most of them resulted in free throws. They shot 40 free throws, and it was pretty well balanced all across the board. But it was just stifling. I mean, 29% from the field in a game. Nevertheless, for a Mike Budenholzer team, like Mike Budenholzer is a great offensive coach. Devin Booker's a great offensive player, but just the Thunder were just stifling, man. And they were able to completely dominate a game, OKC was, where they shoot under 40 from the field and shoot 25% from 3. They didn't play a great offensive game. You could say they didn't even play a good offensive game. But this was a complete domination on the defensive end, and that's exactly what OKC's been doing. Like, dude, they led by as many as 25 in a game where they didn't even shoot 40% from the field. I mean, when I was watching this game, it was definitely a bit of an ugly watch, obviously, because of the teams not being able to shoot the ball for anything, and there being so many free throws. But for defensive-minded, basketball fans, I love watching defense. This is one of those games, man. I mean, 11 blocks that the Thunder had. They just killed it. They just really killed it, man. Shout out to the Thunder. They continue their historic defense, and I mean, even they held a team to under. That's going to be one of the things that this will be lost in the course of history. First, this game will be lost in history where the Suns shoot under 30% from the field. But nevertheless, the Thunder hold the Suns to 29% from the field, and when they don't even have a center, and they hold the Suns. The Suns scored 22 points in the paint, and OKC doesn't even have a big man because they're all injured. Crazy stuff, man. Shout out to OKC for just dominating on that end of the floor. In the final game, the Golden State Warriors defeated the Memphis Grizzlies 123-118. Good to see Desmond Bane back out there for Memphis. This game was not as close as the final score indicates. Point differential, the Grizzlies tried to put up a bunch of points there at the end to not hurt their point differential. It was a domination by Golden State after the first quarter. Team effort, just like it has been the whole season for Golden State. Just a good, solid victory there. And for the Grizzlies, just good to see Desmond Bane get back out on the floor there. Came off the bench in this one at 18.6 rebounds. Zach Edey, double-double off the bench. Marcus Smart off the bench. Vince Williams, his first game of the season. He's a guy I mentioned in previous episodes. He could be big for this team. Looked good in his first game. Was good on both ends of the floor. So good game for both teams, honestly. Good. You could take some good things away for both of these teams going forward. There's a look at all your games from last night. So much stuff to talk about. This is definitely going to be the longest recap video, but I am here for it. Now, let's take a look at tonight's MVP of the night. After all these crazy performances, who is it going to be, man? Who's it going to be? So many players to pick from, man. The league has been so great this season and even last night. But in the end, I decided for the first time this season, I went with a player who lost the game because De'Aaron Fox went for 60. Had to give it to him, man. 60 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds on that incredible efficiency, 22 of 35 from the field. I mean, to score 60 on 35 shots, that's impressive on the degree of difficulty of shots that he was taking. Very impressive for De'Aaron Fox. So he gets the player of the night despite the loss. So there's a bit of a consolation prize for De'Aaron Fox after the tough loss. And then final thing before we get out of here, let's take a look at this weekend's NBA schedule. Starting here tonight, got 5 games going on. First on League Pass. Bucks, Hornets, Lakers, Pelicans, Raptors, Celtics, Jazz, Kings, and the lone NBA TV game at 8:30 p.m. Texas Showdown. This should be a fun one between the Spurs and the Mavs. The Spurs on the second night of a back-to-back. Mavericks been losing some games, a lot of close ones lately. Luka Doncic definitely needs to step up defensively. I didn't have a recap video when they lost to the Jazz because he screwed up on that final play. So he's definitely gonna. I'll get to the Mavericks in a future video. We'll probably talk about them on the podcast. And then looking ahead to Sunday, and you see a lot of different logos on there. That's because a lot of the new City Edition uniforms for this season are going to be showed off for the first time. So 10 games going on Sunday. Miami plays Indiana again, so that should be a fun rematch there. We'll see if the Pacers can kind of get back there. Cleveland, again, looking for win number 15 in a row when they face the Charlotte Hornets. Denver at Memphis. That's the Memphis Sounds. They'll be wearing the Grizzlies will be wearing their classic red uniforms there. Mavericks Thunder. That should be a great matchup. That'd be the one I would look out for there. And even Rockets Bulls. Rockets Bulls should be fun with the Bulls high pace. Rockets, their defense as well. So there's a look at all the games this weekend. This has been a long one. If you made it to this point of the video, you're a real one. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. Subscribe for more NBA content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'll catch you back here on a Tuesday for the podcast and the recap. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, a great weekend, and I'll catch you in the next one.